Fibromyalgia is often described as incurable. But what if that isn't the whole truth? Hi, I'm Tanner Murtagh. I'm a therapist specialized in helping people reduce or eliminate their chronic pain or illness using a psychological and nervous system approach. And yes, this is possible. In this video, I'm going to share the secret to healing fibromyalgia, and I'm going to break it down into 5 key areas you need to focus on to get real recovery. If you've been struggling with fatigue, widespread pain, and endless treatments that don't work, it may be time to try a new approach. Let's dive in. Now, fibromyalgia is made up of a lot of different symptoms, including chronic fatigue, chronic widespread pain. It could include dizziness, brain fog, and also cognition issues and memory issues. Now, with fibro, a lot of people also have issues with anxiety, depression, or have experienced trauma. Now, in the medical community, a lot of people are told if you're diagnosed with fibro, it's incurable. And I do not believe that this is the case. In my opinion, fibro is what we call neuroplastic pain and symptoms. What this means is there's no damage or disease in your body that's causing your chronic symptoms. It's occurring because your brain and nervous system is stuck in this heightened state of danger or survival. And the good thing about neuroplastic pain and symptoms is they're reversible, but they're not going to be reversible by just using a medical approach. We need to use the psychological approach and treat the brain and nervous system. In my practice, I've seen so many people with fibro get great reductions in their symptoms, and some even complete elimination. Personally, years back, I had widespread chronic pain, and several doctors told me that I had fibro. And I felt really hopeless. I felt really lost that I was never going to get better. But when I came to a brain and nervous system approach, over several months, I was able to completely heal. And for anyone listening that's been diagnosed with fibro, I feel for you, but it's not hopeless. But we got to start treating the brain and nervous system. We need to go to the source. And this source is this heightened state of danger that you've been living in for a long time. The cure for chronic pain and symptoms is safety. And we're going to talk about the 5 key areas that I focus on when I'm treating anyone with chronic pain and symptoms. If we can focus our healing in these 5 areas, it will increase our likeliness that we're going to be able to fully heal and recover. So the first area I talk about is changing thoughts and beliefs. Your body is listening. Your brain and nervous system is listening to the thoughts that you have. And for a lot of people, when they have chronic pain, chronic symptoms, they had a lot of negative thinking about their symptoms and about their body. There can be worrying, catastrophizing, self-criticism, or obsessive thinking. And all these negative thinking patterns, they can actually trigger and perpetuate your chronic symptoms. And so starting to do some work on thoughts and beliefs and starting to shift things is really key. I have a whole video on how to develop safe self-talk about your chronic symptoms. It's a great video. I'm going to put the link down below in the description of this video, but it explains how we can go from having these negative thinking patterns about our pain or physical symptoms and how we can start to develop safer beliefs. And part of my education is like providing accurate education for people. I want people to understand accurate education of why pain and symptoms occur, gather evidence that your symptoms are neuroplastic in nature, and start to give yourself safer thoughts and beliefs. For example, it could be saying, my body is healthy and capable. I'm able to fully recover from these symptoms. Or these are just sensations and they're temporary, and they'll eventually pass. Again, you're not lying to yourself. You're telling yourself these safer beliefs, which is going to regulate your nervous system. And over time, this can start to dial down your pain and physical symptoms. Now, the second area I focus on is brain retraining and graded exposure. So many of us have nervous system dysregulation in response to our pain and symptoms. and this makes sense. You are not to blame for this. When we have debilitating pain or symptoms, it makes sense we have a fight, angry, frustrated, flight, nervous, anxious, or freeze and shut down, where we go numb, despair, hopeless, helpless. But the more we have this dysregulated response to our pain and symptoms, the more the brain feels danger and it produces more pain and symptoms. More pain and symptoms, more dysregulation, more pain and symptoms. So it's a feedback loop that I've seen people lost in for decades. Now, in brain retraining, what we're doing is we're trying to change the nervous system and emotional response to our pain and symptoms as we attend to them in the body. This is somatic work. Now, I have a whole brain retraining video. I will put that brain retraining video down below. Make sure you check that video out. It's going to really explain what brain retraining is and will help you go through a practice so you can start to actively shift your nervous system and emotional response to your pain and symptoms. And by doing that over time, your pain and symptoms can reduce and eventually become eliminated. You can't skip brain retraining. It's very vital. Now, the other piece is we need to do graded exposure. So many people with fibro or any chronic symptoms, our world gets smaller. How do we cope with our pain and symptoms? We avoid anything and everything we think is triggering them. The thing is that when your symptoms are neuroplastic, it's not movement, positions, weather, smells, sounds that are triggering your symptoms. But the more we avoid, the more our life shrinks, and the more our brain thinks all these things in our environment are dangerous. And so to heal, we need to widen our world. I always tell people you cannot heal your chronic symptoms with avoidance. We need to slowly and gradually expose ourselves to walking a bit more, to moving more, to doing activities, to slowly going back to work. This is really hard work to do. When I was healing, it was terrifying. I get it. Like I was bedbound basically by the end of my chronic pain journey. And so I started small. I would walk maybe 2 or 3 minutes back and forth in my apartment. And over a month or so, all of a sudden I could walk 15, 20 minutes outside. So you're gradually doing this while creating psychological safety. We're teaching our brain, hey, we're safe to move. We're safe to be in positions. We're safe to go back to playing soccer or to working or doing hobbies. Really dive into this. I have a whole video on going bedbound to fully moving, the process how you do this. I'll put that link down below as well. Now, the third area that I focus on with people is nervous system regulation. Now, part of nervous system regulation is helping you be in a safe, connected, calm state more often. That's really important. We want to learn to be in a safe and connected state and help our brain gravitate in that direction. As I said, for a lot of us with fibro, we're chronically dysregulated. So teaching our nervous system to be in a safe, connected state is really vital. The other part of nervous system regulation that people don't like very much is nervous system regulation is not just about feeling calm or safe. It's also about being able to drop into difficult emotions, being able to drop into dysregulation, get exposure to being with it in the body, and processing that energy and moving through it. We need to do both. We need to learn to be in a safe and connected state, but we also need to learn to process dysregulation. Now, I have practices for both of these. I'm going to put both links down below so you can start utilizing some of this. This is really vital because I tell people when we are resisting dysregulation or emotions, it's going to increase pain and symptom sensitivity. And so we need to learn to process these responses inside and move through them. I've seen so many people do courageous work in this area in my practice, which I'm really honored to be a part of. And in my digital course, the somatic safety method, I'll put the link down below for that as well. I've seen people start to utilize all the practices that are involved in that digital course and really start to see effective change. Now, the fourth area is a difficult area to talk about. It's processing trauma. Trauma and chronic symptoms are very connected. If you've experienced trauma in the past, even one event, even if it was years before your pain and symptoms developed, if you've experienced one trauma, you're about 2.7 times more likely to develop chronic pain, chronic fatigue, IBS, or fibro. You're more than double likely to develop chronic symptoms if you face trauma. And so in my practice and in my digital course, I support people in starting to process these trauma memories and sensations that have taken place inside. This is hard work to do. I don't say this lightly, but I've seen people process their trauma and their healing really progress forward. When I was recovering, I did a lot of trauma work on my own somatically, and this is why this is tied into my approach, because personally, I found it incredibly healing. Now, the fifth and final area I want to talk about is social safety. We've covered some of the micro things, focusing on thoughts and beliefs, starting to process pain sensations, emotions, dysregulation, process trauma, but we also need to create social safety. Is your lifestyle, the lifestyle that you're living right now, or factors in your life, sending signals of danger to your brain and nervous system? This could include how you're living. Some people are high intense, pressure, perfectionism, people pleasing, always pushing and high achieving. That is going to keep you dysregulated. Don't use all the practices I've mentioned before this as bandages to support a life that doesn't create a sense of safety. Other people have like low intensity living where they're shut down, they're isolated, no movement, no connection with the outside world. And so we need to learn to live in a way that cultivates a felt sense of safety. You also need to look at factors in your life: work, school, family, friends, community. Are they sending signals of safety or danger? These are hard things to discuss and to think about. There was friends when I was healing that I had to let go of. They were toxic. They were not helping me recover. And I needed to shift that. That was hard work, but I don't regret those decisions. So really also remember, you need to focus on social safety and create a life where your nervous system starts to feel safe and your pain and symptoms just start to naturally reduce. So I hope this video was helpful on fibromyalgia and the 5 factors we need to focus on to ultimately cure it. If you have questions or comments, put them down below. I will also put the link for my digital course down below. It has over 10 hours of educational videos, over 60 somatic practices, brain retraining practices. So it has everything that you need to start your recovery. Take care.